Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday. The S&P 500 was down almost 0.6% today. The sell-off today really came from the technology sector for the most. I mean, if you look at the S&P 500, it was 350 of the stocks that were up, actually. So there was some breadth in the market, but the big stocks were down. These indexes rely mostly on these big stocks, for the way that they work. And so, NVIDIA had a sell off and what have you. I don't think there's any particular reason for it per se today over any other time per se. We are in kind of the summer time frame. Last couple of weeks of August, sometimes the volume gets quite low. So we'll see how that plays. September, as we've talked about before, is one of the softest months of the year. So this is going to be a different September because of the Fed meeting and the possibility of a rate cut that might happen in there. So kind of like what happened last September, they did a half a point rate cut and the market ended up doing quite well. On Friday, Chairman Powell will be speaking from Jackson Hole. And so they have a big meeting there. It's an interesting event only because there's no question and answer. So he can craft exactly what he wants to say, and it doesn't get diluted by any of the questions that come in. So, it's going to be some strategy there. Are they trying to signal that, yes, we're going to be doing, a rate cut in September, or maybe just the opposite, that they won't be? So I do think the market's going to be pretty reactive to what he says, especially if it's not going to be a rate cut, if that seems to be what he's talking about. They don't often say things directly, but you kind of have to interpret that. I think the market, if you look at the, betting market, it's well over 80% bet that they'll have a rate cut. So if Powell starts to say that they don't think they will, there'll be some adjustment that needs to happen there also. They could be pointing to some of the inflation numbers that have come out. They could be talking about some of the, the job numbers that got revised downward so drastically in the last report. So anyway, that's where things are today. Really, I think we're going to go a little bit sideways. There will be some really interesting earnings reports coming from some of the big retailers, Walmart, Target, and those type of places, just to see what the consumer's doing and how the consumer's reacting, and then what the CEOs and CFOs are talking about going forward in terms of pricing, because a lot of this stuff with tariffs will be hitting in the retail sector, of course. And so, it'll be interesting to see what they're seeing and how they're, anticipating what's going to happen here. So anyway, look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Thank you very much.